So I wanted to do something a little bit different on this video. I think too often when we engage with an agency or trying to build a new marketing program, and specifically when we're trying to build a lead generation program, which often implies that we're going to be spending some dollars. We're going to be investing some marketing dollars. We're going to be investing some ad dollars in something. Often we just go into that and say, hey, we're going to spend some money, or we arbitrarily come up with a budget and we throw that into an agency or even into our own internal marketing department. And we have no idea or expectations as to what that's going to yield. We just say, hey, we're going to give you, $20,000 a month and we want a bunch of leads. I think it's a lot more productive and it feels a lot better if we can build a model. And that model is based on some experience or some data that we've already experienced, so that we can have a high degree of confidence that if we do these things that are represented by the model, we will get the outcomes represented by the model. So today I wanted to show you the model that I use when I'm working with a new client to set some of those expectations, to use some of that historical data, and give them a good idea of what they can expect from a lead program that we would potentially help them build. So let's go through the model. As you look at it, initially it might be a little bit overwhelming, but it's actually pretty simple the way it's constructed. And if you'd like a copy of it, you can look down in the description and we'll give a way for you to contact us and get a copy of this model. But let me explain what you would be looking at if you use this template. So the first thing I like to do is start with major drivers and give you a sense whenever I build a model as to what is actually forcing the movement inside of this model. And so the key factors here is the conversion rate that we're getting on our lead application. So when we're filling out that form, what's kind of that pull through rate? We're also making some assumptions about the sales process. So the neat thing about this model is there are some numbers that marketing is responsible for, and there's some numbers that sales is responsible for. So this is one of those drivers that sales is responsible for. And hopefully you internally have some data that you can base this assumption on, right? Is when you get an application, when you've got that lead, you turn it into an application, how many of those are ultimately going to be approved, right? Ultimately turn into a loan. And again, this can be a little bit variable. You can either measure the number of leads that turn into applications or the number of applications that get approved and turned into loans, right? So there's a couple different ways to do that. Marketing, the mix that we're going to use is also represented in here, and that will change some things. You're going to see some things where we're going to introduce certain channels at different stages. And then what I think personally should be the number one driver of this model, and you as an organization should be thinking about right up front, is what is that cost of acquiring a customer, that CAC? What's a reasonable amount to spend based on your understanding of lifetime value of that customer? What's a reasonable amount to spend in order to acquire a new customer? And that's really kind of what's going to drive whether we're doing well or we're underperforming as we kind of walk through this model. Okay, so let's go straight down through the key assumptions. So this whole model is literally driven by a couple different variables that are represented right here. What is that lead? So when somebody fills out a form, we're going to post it into your CRM. How many of those leads turn into an application, right? So that means somebody got them on the phone, someone actually took them through some information and got them approved in the context of mortgage. This would be a 1003. Again, this can be applied to a lot of different things, right? You just change what you're measuring there, but those percentages are still important because those are conversion rates that are critical, right? So we're going to stay sort of in the context of mortgage in this particular example. Application to closed funded loans, right? So closed loan rate. So how many of those applications based on against your historical experience? So again, the first one's a measure and accountable to sales. The second one's measurable and probably accountable to operations. What percentage of those will turn into loans? So here, again, we've got some historical norms that we've seen, but ultimately, again, like I said, this accountability sits inside of the sales and operations of the mortgage company in this case. 10%. We think is a reasonable number here. 50%, again, historically speaking, seems to be a reasonable number here. The next thing we want to use as assumption is, and this could be dependent on your market, maybe even the type of loans and programs that you originate. What is the average funded loan amount that you experience? Here we put 350,000. I think actually that's a kind of a nationwide industry average, but again, this should be based on your organization. What's the revenue or the sales premium? Now, this is going to change a lot, right? So this, if you're a mortgage broker, this is something less. If you're a correspondent, this is probably about right. If you're a direct lender and do your own fundings and stuff like this, it could be much higher. But you want to know, what is that revenue? What is that margin? Again, you can apply this to other types of businesses as well. You can see how you could just change the description of what you're tracking, but in all businesses, you want to know what your margin is, right? And then ultimately, and this is our checksum for later, I want to set my targeted cost for acquiring a customer. So what do we think is a reasonable value? And here, I put 2,000, but we can change it, and I can show you how that affects the model later. Based on this and everything that's down here, I ultimately want to create some sort of 12-month forecast, right? So this, ultimately, these are the assumptions, and these are the expected outcomes. So now let's just jump down into here, because that's kind of self-explanatory. So I've broken this out. Marketing services, whether this is internal or an agency, there are a certain set of activities that I think you should be doing if you're generating leads. And then there is a sort of a ramp up schedule here. Some of these things cost more over time, some of them don't, but it's important to fully account for that. Like at the very beginning, what am I paying? Because ultimately you're going to pay something up front, and this may not even be profitable, right? Until you get into sort of a scale, the appropriate scale. So there's usually sort of this crossover moment when you start to break even. So that's really important that you have these expenses built in here. And you also account for, I see this happen a lot, we're just saying, oh, we just pay for this, or we just have this retainer, and we don't have any accounting for the fact that we may need to spend more as we scale, right? We need to bring on more services. We need to bring in more channels. We need to spend more dollars, and those sorts of things. So it's important to month over month. And again, what we do here is a 12-month rolling sort of situation, right? So it doesn't matter when we start, but this is the 12-month. Critical services, and again, this is built for an agency, but internally, you're probably going to be about as much. Probably actually you'll spend more if you factor in the head count that's actually doing these activities. So there's account management, just sort of doing the project management of everything, keeping everything running and intact. PPC, this is Google ads, Facebook ads, those sorts of things. Conversion rate optimization. This is important. It's not usually a set it and forget it on your landing pages, even your website. There's in order to kind of dial in your conversion rate, you're going to have to do more design and development. So you should be accounting for those costs. Again, the website you have today will probably not be the one that will give you the best conversion rate as you go forward. Plus, you may have to do different things. Loan programs change all of the time as the market changes. Again, you're going to have to devote some more design and development resources. So I think it's really important to plug that in, to know that we have somebody that is actually being held accountable for keeping that conversion rate up. And usually that's design and development resources. SEO and content, again, search engine optimization and the actual content, the words that are going to be out there, blog posts, landing pages, those sorts of things that will ultimately rank and bring you traffic. You'll notice social media marketing and email marketing are two things that normally I don't initially do those things until we start to get some traction and scale, because these essentially are remarketing and branding channels in my experience. These are high intent channels, everything we've talked about so far, and will bring you leads that will convert and have the intent to buy immediately. So that's why there's some zeros here. Analysis and reporting, this is critical. This is the only way you're going to know if you're winning or losing, right? Or if everything is staying intact with this model, because this model should be living and breathing. We should look at these numbers every single month and see if we were below or above plan. The next section here is advertising budget. So in the advertising budget, we've got plugged in here, again, the things that I think are the most important. These are ad platforms. So you notice I said social media is 0, but we're actually going to spend on the social media ad platform. Generally, this is Google ads and Facebook ads. And again, we've got some budget. The reason I have them broken out is this budget will go straight off to Google and Facebook, right? So this is truly ad spend, ad budget. This up here is your portion of your marketing budget. So this is internal FTE or agency expense. So that's a different sort of category of expense. Ultimately, this is, again, something that comes from at least our internal experience, is what is that cost per lead? You can see that this is fairly high, and then it descends over time. There are two factors that are built into this model and are only sort of relevant within the context of our historical data. But it's pretty close if you're dealing with people that are experiencing lead generation, particularly in mortgage. You can achieve this. What's happening here is at the beginning, your ad platforms and you on that ad platform don't have as good a reputation, and so you'll pay a little bit more. Also, all of your lift for lead generation is being done by your ad spend. Over time, that gets cheaper because your SEO kicks in, your content kicks in, that organic gives you essentially free traffic and leads. And also your reputation on those ad platforms will get better, and you'll start to get better deals per click. And so ultimately you can drive that down. Again, this could depend a little bit on the types of products that you're running. But this, again, is pretty general and will hold true for most loan programs. Ultimately, we're then accounting that into the number of leads. And again, these numbers are starting to be driven by here, like based on that spend, how many leads will we get? How many of those leads will turn into funded loans? What will those funded loans lead in origination value? Ultimately, what is the revenue? That's based on our margin. And then we want to kind of roll some things up. What's our marketing services expense? What's our advertising spend? You can see we ramped at least the advertising spend to some degree. The marketing spend goes up. And then here kicks in our KPIs and our check sums, right? So what is that CAC? We set up here, we want that CAC to stay under 2,000. You can see we're sort of losing at the beginning because we're getting things set up. We're getting things scaled and optimized and those sorts of things quickly as possible. We're able to kick that in to a profitable into the green zone. And you can see the majority of that 12-month period is in the green. And then ultimately our total sort of accounting for performance, again, is in the green. So this, based on these assumptions, is a profitable lead generation program. Very quickly, we will hit the goals that we're looking for, and it will become profitable. We have some other sort of common KPIs in here. What is the return on our ad spend? You can see even at the very beginning, we're returning positively on our ad spend. We're returning positively on our total market expense, and we're actually above our break-even point. So even though we're running in the red here, we're not sort of acquiring customers in the right zone or where we want to be. We are doing things from a marketing perspective profitably. So again, the neat thing about this model is you can quickly see the assumption that you're going with, the money that you're spending, the expectations you have from the lead generation program ultimately can be run in a highly profitable way. And then of course you can change assumptions and see, hey, let's shock this thing, right? Let's do some stress testing. What is the worst scenario? What is the best scenario? And you can kind of create some parameters to walk within. And then the other nice thing is every 30 days, you will know exactly whether or not this lead program is working. And so if you're investing in an agency in particular, and that would be us in this case, we're happy to be accountable to that because we're very comfortable with these types of numbers, but you can look at these numbers and know whether we're providing the value that's expected. The other thing, I'll be quite open and frank with you, it's also good to hold some accountability to the internal organization. So as an agency, we like these models because it will test our assumptions of what we can expect from sales and operations. So if something gets out of whack there, or we can't do a certain thing, or a particular loan program is not resonating in the market, we'll know exactly where that thing is sort of not jiving with the model. And then we can, in a very precise way, go into that specific area and tweak and optimize instead of just trying to wonder what's working and what's not working. All right, well, there's a lot to consume here, just kind of looking at these numbers. But if you'd like to implement something like this or to have a deeper discussion about building a lead generation program and a model like this, would like to help you out and be a part of that discussion, there are links below to get connected with us, to schedule a session where we could go over a model like this. And certainly, we'd love for you to like and subscribe so we can bring you more great content like this, because that will help this type of content get further and allow us to do more of this.